Good day everyone! For today's presentation, let's tackle about the Lawrence Kohlberg stages of moral development. But first, let us know who is Lawrence Kohlberg. Lawrence Kohlberg was an American psychologist best known for his theory of stage of moral development. He served as a professor in the psychology department at the University of Chicago and at the Graduate School of Education at Harvard University. Moral development is a theory that focuses on how children develop morality and moral reasoning. Kohlberg's theory suggests that moral development occurs in a series of 6 stages. First is the obedience and punishment. Second, self-interest. Third, interpersonal accord and conformity. Fourth, authority and maintaining social order. 5, social contract. And 6, universal ethical principle. This theory also suggests that moral logic is primarily focused on seeking and maintaining justice. At this moment, let's proceed to the 6 stages of moral development, which is the focus of our discussion for today. And I have here example scenarios that mostly happen in our lives that makes us better understand each of its meaning of the 6 stages. For example, I have a scenario that there is a fight in the schoolyard. 2 9th graders are beating up Tom. Those who watch the fights are at different stages of moral development. Let's see what they do and how they justify their behaviors. At stage 1, we make moral judgment based on obedience and punishment. Finn's sense of good and bad is directly linked to whether he gets punished or not. Finn sees what is happening to his friends and wants to help. He doesn't, however, because he is afraid the teacher may punish him if he gets caught fighting. He asks himself, how can I avoid punishment? At stage 1, based on obedience and punishment, Finn's focus on the direct consequences of his action on himself. He thinks what might happen if the teacher caught him, if he got punished or not, because he is involved in the fight. Stage 2, self-interest, expresses that what's in it for me, in which right behavior is defined by whatever the individual believes to be in their best interest or whatever is convenient, but understood in a narrow way which does not consider one's reputation or relationships to groups of people. For example, on stage 2, we are motivated by self-interest. Mary decides to intervene and help Tom. She knows that she might get punished, but she also knows that she could become a victim herself someday. If she helps Tom now, he might help her in the future. She is asking herself, what's in it for me? In other words, it is a concern for others is not based on loyalty or intrinsic respect, but rather you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. That means doing or giving something in order to get something in return. Stage 3, interpersonal accord and conformity. The self-interest society, by conforming to social standards, individuals are receptive to approval or disapproval from others as it reflects society's views. They try to be a good boy or a good girl, to live up to this expectation, having learned that being regarded as good benefits to the self. Stage 3, reasoning may judge the morality of an action by evaluating its consequences in terms of a person's relationships, which now begin to include things like respect, gratitude, and the golden rule. For example, Betty sees the fight and wants to intervene, but when she realizes that all the others are just watching, she decides not to get involved. She wants others to see that she is a good girl, who is conforming with the ethics of community. She asks herself, what do others think of me? At this case, she doesn't care what is happening. All she thinks is herself. If, what others think of her if she intervened in the fight or not. That's why he asked herself, what others think of me? Number 4, authority and maintaining social order. It is important to obey laws, dicta, and social conventions because of their importance in maintaining a functioning society. Moral reasoning in the stage 4 is thus beyond the need for individual approval exhibited in stage 3. A central ideal or ideals often prescribe what's right and wrong. If one person violates a law, perhaps everyone would. Thus, there is an obligation and a duty to uphold laws and rules. For example, when the teacher sees the group fighting, he immediately steps in and shouts, "Stop fighting at school is forbidden." He feels that, above all, it is important to follow the rules. Otherwise, chaos breaks out, and that is his duty to uphold the rules that sustain a functioning society. The teachers at that moment ask himself, how can I maintain law and order? At this stage, the teacher has the power to control his or her belongings in order to follow the rules so that the other doesn't do the same way. Stage 5. Social contract. The world is viewed as holding different opinions, rights, and values. Such perspectives should be mutually respected as unique to each person of community. Laws are regarded as social contracts rather than rigid edicts. Those do not promote the general welfare should be changed when necessary to meet the greatest good for the greatest number of people. For example, Jessie, who watches from afar, is not sure about how she feels about this. To her, rules are make sense only if they serve the right purpose. Obviously, the school rules prohibit fighting. But maybe Tom deserves to finally learn his lesson. Just yesterday, he punched a young girl from a grade 1. She asked herself, does a rule truly serve all members of the community? Yes, Jessie thinks that Tom deserves to be punished now by the teachers because he punched a young girl yesterday, and she thinks that rules should be fair to everyone in the community after all. Stage 6. Universal ethical principle. At this stage, moral reasoning is based on abstract reasoning using universal ethical principles. Laws are valid only insofar as they grounded in justice, and the commitment to justice carries with it an obligation to disobey unjust laws. Legal rights are unnecessary as social contracts are not essential for deontic moral action. Decisions are not reached hypothetically in a conditioned way but rather categorically in an absolute way. For example, all those involved now have to face the headmaster. He first explained the school rules and why they exist. Then, he clarifies that rules are valid only if they are grounded in justice. The commitment to justice carries with it an obligation to disobey unjust rules. The headmaster's highest moral principle is compassion. He believes that all people should learn to understand each other's viewpoints and that they don't feel anyone alone with their feelings. Now, he asks himself, what are the abstract ethical principles that serve my understanding of justice? At the last stage, the headmaster should think of what are the consequences of their actions, what are the punishment they deserve because they obey the rules, and to show to all students that rules are rules in terms of justice.